Okay, cool. So I think for the sake of time, I will get started if that's okay. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. And then as people join, I'll just admit them into the meeting and, whatever they miss, this is all being recorded. So I'll just pass it on to them right after. And then what you guys can do is praise it and just kind of shame them for being late. Be like, are you kidding? Are you kidding? You were late to Lavi Schechter's presentation? What is wrong with you? Gosh. All right, so I'm gonna get started. First and foremost, so good to see you guys. I really appreciate you guys being curious about this kind of stuff. That means that you're hungry and you're excited to get your learn on. We are here to talk about selling to the SMB during the quarantined economy, which is obviously insanely difficult. What I'm going to talk about today, I wrote down some talking points. We're going to focus on the new hello. By the way, I'm going to share this all with you. So if you're like aggressively writing notes right now, don't sweat it. I was looking at you, Scaff.
Yeah, I was writing.
So if you're thinking about like, oh, I'm about to get hit with a lot of ammo, don't worry about it. I'm going to send it to you, and I have written takeaways. You guys know me. Everything I talk about, I follow with written takeaways, stuff that you can take with you. Okay, so we got the new hello. There's a new hello happening right now. We're going to talk a little bit about branding as opposed to selling, which is a little bit of a different approach. And I'm going to kind of bring it home with something called creating the new normal, which I think is going to help you guys out as you're reaching out to SMBs. So in terms of a script, right? There is no script for this. What's happening is requiring us to make a massive shift in our approach. The script that I wrote for Yelp all those years ago, right? Like, hello, my name is, I'm calling from, and hey, here's one or two pieces of value, and let's get you to a computer. And that's impossible now. And those expectations are out the door, right? You're talking to somebody who has just experienced an insane piece of hardship, and it's just so important to begin our conversations with empathy now. So we preach a lot of pre-call research whenever we make an open call. And before the quarantine, it was, let's find a piece of value about the business, right? Something that we can use on the phone call, like, hey, I see that you offer this, or I see you've been in business for X amount of years, and you guys know what I'm talking about, right? I don't have to go into like crazy amount of detail here. There's still a piece of pre-call research that needs to be done, but it's no longer how long you've been in business or what your specialties are. Now it's, do you have a pop-up on your website or Facebook that alerts your customers as to the status of your business?
Yeah.
That is the main thing that I am thinking as I'm reaching out to a business right now. Let me go to their Facebook, Instagram, or Yelp, or anything on Google, right? Like anything online that has a website or a status associated with them. I'm checking to see if there's a pop-up that says, here's how the business is doing. So when I'm calling, right, I'm addressing that as the first thing I'm doing, right? So I wrote down kind of like a mock open call here. And I'm gonna try and do the most warm, compassionate version of myself that I've ever done in my life as I'm making this mock open call. Right, like, hi, my name is Lavi. I'm calling with, company X. And before I go into, the reason for why I called you today, I want to make sure that just you and your family are in a good, healthy place. And then just pause, right? And then just hold. And it's something that I'm doing in my own business. This is something that I'm teaching others as I'm talking to other SMB sales reps. And this is the wrong time in our economy to lead with your piece of value, right? There is like, hey, I see that you guys are offering really great bikes, and there's a lot of people looking for bikes. That's dead. That's done, right? It's, hey, before I get started, yes, there's a reason for my call. Before I go into it, let me just take a moment, make sure, like, how are you doing? Are you guys okay? Family okay? Everybody healthy? And just pause and just like be a human for a moment. And I think as I'm looking at the faces on the screen, I don't think anybody on this chat would ever have a problem with that. You guys are all very compassionate, empathetic people. But there's no such thing as like leading with value right now. It's impossible. So look up, and if they don't have a pop-up on their website, address it, right? Hey, I'm on your website right now, and I don't see anything that's like an alert to your local community. A lot of businesses are putting pop-ups on their website and saying, hey guys, yes, we're open, and yes, we plan on reopening. Now, if you don't have that, my question to you is, what are your intentions for that? And can I help you with that? Can I show you how to do that on Facebook? And that's part of your job now, believe it or not. Doesn't matter what company you represent, whether you're calling from Yelp, Google, Facebook, Instagram, whatever your platform is, you now have to take a different level of responsibility and help people with stuff that's not related to your platform. Hey, before I go into my spiel, do you want me to help you kind of set that up on Facebook? Because if you're telling me that you do plan on reopening, before I start even selling you anything, let's get you on Facebook and make sure that's a pop-up. Guys, you know how easy that is? It's like 3 clicks. Or on their Google My Business page or on their website. And that shows that you truly care about them, and their guard will get really, really low at this point. You just separated yourself from a person trying to make money rather than a person trying to show someone how to grow their business. And if I'm on the receiving end of that call, I'm going to be a lot more inclined to give you my time and lower my guard. So, right? Yes, I'm aware of the times, right? Yes, there's a reason for my call. And I'd love to kind of challenge you guys for a little bit. Like, why would I start a conversation with, yes, I'm aware of the times?
Like, ultimately, it's the ability to let them know, like, first of all, it's taking that out of the equation. So
there you go.
They don't, it's less likely they're going to bring up, hey, you know what's going on.
Right,
and,
right.
In light of this happening right now. So
yeah,
you're sort of taking the ammunition away from them.
Yes.
But also,
yeah, so
I mean, hey, listen, I know that everyone's struggling right now.
Yeah, right. So I imagine as a salesperson in April 2020, one of the biggest things you guys hear is like, hey, jerk, right? Or like even worse. Do you know what's going on out there? Like, do you realize what time you just called me? So I love doing objection prevention. You guys have always known this about me. I don't like handling objections. I like preventing them. And this is one of my favorite ways to prevent objections right now. Like, hey, yes, I'm aware of the times. And yes, there is a reason I'm calling. I was looking at your Facebook website and I see that, you guys have a pop-up, blah, blah, blah. Now, the intentions for my call are as follows. To make sure that information about your business is up to date to your loyal customers. And B, to talk about helping people understand your plans for your grand reopening. And the more nonchalant you say that, the more like matter of fact you say that, the more normalized it is. Yep, I'm calling to see what we can do about your grand reopening. And it's just like that. Don't even play it like there might be a grand reopening. Make sure you say it like there will be a grand reopening. I'm calling to talk about your grand reopening and what your plans are for that. And that's one of the biggest ways to get someone to connect with you and normalizing what's about to happen. I'll continue. Just because we tried objection prevention doesn't mean we're not going to get any. So let's be realistic about that. Let's just be super realistic. Right? So I wrote down some things here like, do you read the news? Right? We're closed. So I don't know if you guys can read this. I know it's a little small. I'll try to enlarge my screen here. There we go. Look at that. Animation. Okay. I downloaded this template for one of my template providers. It's pretty cool. Okay. So I'll move this over here. Okay. So, hey, do you not read the news? Yes. I called you during this downtime on purpose because I figured you'd be home. All right. And I imagine that you plan on reopening. Exclamation point. If you have intentions of reopening, I can help you. Those are 100% of my calls right now, and it's working very well. And you guys notice how I dropped my tone on it's working very well. And what I'm trying to do is normalize a call as if, oh, you don't have a reopen plan? Okay, now you really got to talk to me. And this is how we're going to try again to get people to understand that the planet around them has a reopen plan. And if they don't have one, they're the ones that are a little bit left behind. you're still going to hear something like, why would I advertise when my doors are closed? Are you an idiot? Like, are you living under a rock? Okay. Fair question. Fair question. Everyone who is advertising right now is treating this like a grand reopening. When you open your business for the first time, you don't open your doors and hope for the best, right? That's crazy. This is no different. There's no difference here than your original opening back in, 2003. I'm on your website. I see you opened in 2003. When you did that, you didn't just open your doors and just be like, okay, I guess we're open now. No, you had some sort of plan back then. I'm asking you to have some sort of plan right now. And the whole country is going to be reopening at the exact same time. You want to be the person who is set up for success, not the person who's playing catch up later. And that's who's advertising right now. So, right? And then now you guys have earned the right to do a call to action, right? Like, hey, so let's get you on a computer and let me show you what other people are doing. Just because you said that, again, I want to give you like 4 different approaches for this. They're still going to give you a hard time. They're going to say, well, why would I advertise? Part 2. Okay, so, hey, Bob, we're less focused on getting people to come in today, duh, right, obviously, and more focused on making sure people know you're still in business. This is how a lot of companies are doing that. And then pivot. So, hey, try something for me. Go ahead and Google your business name. The reason I want to make someone Google their business name is because I want to put them in the shoes of their own consumer and say, so if someone's looking for you right now, how will they know you plan on reopening? What's their fear? Their fear is the same fear that every single human in America has right now, that they're out of a job, right? So if they Google you and you don't have some sort of plan in place for Facebook, Instagram, Yelp, right? Like all the sites that are coming up, number 1, 2, 3, and 4. If there's nothing there that says you have a reopen plan, do you know what people are going to assume about you? That you're closed, or you have no intentions of reopening. So that's why you would advertise right now. I want to make sure we're holding this point as close as humanly possible to the chest here, right? My intentions are not to get people to walk through your doors today. That's a physical and literal impossibility. I'm not stupid enough to try to pitch you on advertising for someone to walk in right now. But what I am doing is trying to get you to do what the rest of the country is doing and having a plan for their grand reopening. That's the purpose of the call. And advertising is very good for that. It's very good for that. And then finally, right, is like part 3. One of the benefits of my role, and this is where I want you guys to really like, this is like the hold your head up high moment, right? And like one of the benefits of my role is that I speak to thousands of small business owners. So I have a very unique perspective on what's happening on your side of things, right? You will never speak to as many small business owners as I do. I speak to more small business owners in one day than you might speak to in a year. And that's real. That's real. So my perspective is very different. Something I hear from the most successful businesses is that they have a relaunch plan. That's why I need you to hop on a computer so we can talk about this. That's why I want you to do this. So I really want, and I've always encouraged this, whenever I had a rep on my team who was like in their 3rd or 4th year, maybe even in like their 2nd year, or maybe if they just had a better title, like instead of just like associate account executive, they were like senior account executive or elite, I would change up their script for them to start the conversation with their title, right? So an example would be, hi, my name is Lavi. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm an elite account executive here. And what that means is that I have a certain book of business that I've closed over the years, which means you're in pretty good hands today. The reason I would say that is because I don't want to go to the dentist's office that doesn't have any plaques on his wall. I want to go to the dentist's office that has 50 plaques on his wall. So I like the idea of talking about your perspective and what you've experienced and what you've seen and your expertise. Your expertise is way bigger than any small business owner because you just speak to more small business owners. So I want you to capitalize on that. How's that sound? Thumbs up? Still engaged? Still with me? Caffeinated? All right, excellent. Cool, I'll keep going. I'm having a great time. Okay. No matter what, however this conversation goes, whether we close, whether we don't close, there's one thing that you have to do, and it would be a shame to ignore, and that's how you're branded, right? That's how you're branded. So don't worry about that slide. I'm going to skip that. This is where I get to you guys, okay? What I'd love for you guys to answer for me on your phones, what is something that every business owner can do for free on this call without paying you? I will live and die by the help mentality, because I know something for a fact about a business owner who just spent 10 minutes with me doing free stuff. What do I know about a business owner who just spent 10 minutes with me updating free features?
They have time.
Yes, what else?
They're interested in having people find them.
100%, Kristen. What else?
You're obviously building some trust with them.
Yes.
If they're willing to spend the 10 minutes with you and update some of those things, it's valuable.
Totally. So we know that they have time, right? So this whole time illusion is fake. We know that they care about how their business appears on the internet. We know that how they're found is valuable. And we also know the biggest piece of this puzzle, which is, do you plan on reopening? Nobody would spend any time with you updating a page when they have no plans of reopening. And that is the biggest piece of this puzzle, right? There's a core foundation to this entire presentation, and that's, what's your reopen plan, right? And if somebody spends 10 minutes with you talking about free stuff, we know they have a plan to reopen. So let's talk a little bit about normalizing, right? I think I have about 13 minutes left. Normalizing is the idea that everyone is already on the same page, and to not be on this page could mean being on the wrong side of the tracks financially. Right, so what I would do if I were you is to create a win folder. Right, a win folder is really simple. I've always kept one. It's this, right, like list of people that I've done good work for, or anybody that I'm working with that is doing something positive. To create a win folder, just go to your browser, right-click on an empty space underneath the search bar, add a folder, call it Clients with a Great Plan. Start adding examples of SMBs in your community that are taking steps towards a grand reopening. And then just have that ready to fire, right? And this is my favorite way to handle objections. Yes, so yes, there are people in your community who plan on reopening. And here they are. And I just got off the phone with, Bob the plumber, James the licensed massage therapist, right? Like, all these people have a reopen plan, and they're all advertising with us, and here they are. In fact, if you want to take your game even further, have a demo template with a list of paying customers in your community, right? So just have a template ready to fire that you already made. It's sitting in your inbox, just ready for you to click send on it, and just copy and paste it over and over and over again. So when you hear the words, "Are you crazy? Nobody's advertising right now," right? Regardless of how great of a salesperson you are, just be ready to say, "Hey Bob, check your inbox. I just sent you something." Don't even ask, "Can I send you something?" Just say, "Check your inbox. I just sent you something." There's a list of 30 businesses in this city that are all on quarantine and are all advertising with us and are all thinking the same thought. What's my grand reopen plan? It's already in your inbox. I already sent it to you. I anticipated this response, so I figured I'd send it to you already. Have the courage to do that. I'd love for you guys to, as your first action item after this is done, to put down a list of 30 businesses in your community that are still advertising, and then created the normalizing plan, or the normalcy plan. Cool, I'm gonna breeze through this next part, right? Some power phrases. Things that I am saying to small business owners from my own platform right now. And this is something that has helped me tremendously. We need you to stay in business, right? Regardless of what happens, we need you to stay in business. When I say we, I mean this country. That sounds a little cheesy, right? But 99% of all businesses in the US are small business. Let's at least try our hardest here together. We need you to stay in business. Please don't give up. Every business owner in the world is thinking the same thing right now. Wow, I'll never open a business again without some kind of internet retention or automation plan ever again. Who are the businesses, or which are the businesses across every small, medium, large? The businesses that are struggling the most are the ones that didn't have a good retention plan, right? Those are the businesses that are going through layoffs. Those are the businesses that are closing doors. Those are the businesses that are doing everything that you hear about in the news right now. But the businesses that have the strongest automation and retention plan are the ones that we don't hear about in the news. So you can say this to a business owner on the phone with them. No matter what happens, we gotta have some sort of marketing or automation plan in place for you. And then finally, my goal is to retain you, not just sell you. And like put 12 exclamation points and like 42 Sharpies and underline that like 1,000 times. My goal is to retain you. We all learn the hard way that we need each other right now, right? I need you to stay in business because officially my job depends on it. How crazy is that? I know that sounds sad and a little morbid, but if we close businesses for advertising, for software, for platforms, and our entire focus is now just on acquisition, and we're not taking good care of them post-sale, then we don't have jobs in a month. And I know that sounds scary, but we have to be realistic, right? We gotta be realistic. So tell a person that, like, my goal is not just to sell you, my goal is to retain you. We've all learned the hard way, we need each other. When you agree to work with me, you should plan on spending another 20, 30 minutes on the phone with me just to make sure we're doing this right. I will set you up for success. That's my promise. And that's something that I will be doing right now if I'm an account executive to make sure my book of business retains as my book of business. Cool? Cool. And then finally, some expectations issues. And this doesn't necessarily apply to you, but in my leadership training sessions, especially over the last few weeks, one of the biggest complaints that I get, or I guess frustrations, is that people are telling me that their own boss is not necessarily in line with real expectations. I don't need you guys to like nod your head or reply to this or do anything like that. That's not what this is about. I'm just putting this out in the universe because I know that it's happening. There may be some organizations out there that have not made adjustments to expectations, right? Output, pipeline, revenue, etc. An example of that would be if your quota is 100K, hypothetically, per quarter, and your book of business is made up of SMBs, and your boss expects you to still close 100K, knowing that all SMBs are temporarily closed. I know that sounds insane, but that is happening. And that's not necessarily a message for you guys on this call. It's a message for anybody else who might be listening to the recorded call later, right? That is most likely coming out of fear because so many people have lost their jobs. So some very basic question-based selling that can be a difference maker for people as they communicate with their boss, right? Number one is, I want to do exactly what you're asking of me, but I'm worried I'm doing it wrong. What percentage of reps are pacing for quota? Am I an outlier if I'm not pacing for quota? That's an honest question, and that's just very data driven, right? So if I'm an account executive and my boss is telling me, why aren't you pacing for quota? My response would be, what percentage of the organization is pacing for quota, and am I an outlier? Number two is, are you willing to help me, right? I always liked putting things back on the boss, because as a leader, I'm someone that gets in the trenches, and I'm someone that wants to pick up the phone with their people, and I want to hit the ground running with my reps at all times. So if I ask you to do something, I am going to get in there with you and kind of show you how. So if there's some communications lapses, it's okay to ask an employer to say, would you mind getting on the phones with me and kind of showing me how you would do it, right? There's nothing wrong with asking that question, okay? This way you can show me your language and then I can mimic it. And that's something that I would challenge any leader in any organization to do. Cool. Wow, I can't believe it. I actually left 5 minutes for questions. I'm insanely proud of myself. This is for you guys. You're gonna get an email with this PowerPoint. It belongs to you. I made it for you. Thank you, Kristen, for arranging this. in the few minutes that we have, does anybody have any questions around this stuff?
I have a question.
Yeah.
If you see on their website or Facebook page or whatever that they are currently and actively still taking customers just in a different way, they're mobile, they're whatever.
Yeah.
Would you change any of this language at all?
I would always start with the I hope you're healthy and I hope the family's okay. I wouldn't change that part. And yes, I would still say like I know what's going on in the country right now, and yes, there's still a reason for my call, but upon further research, it looks like you guys are actually doing really well compared to some of your competitors. And I mean, if you're in a place where you're accepting it, man, let me tell you, I got some serious searches happening on my side that could really benefit you. So that's the only part of the call that I would change. I would still start with a very empathetic, very warm, and caring approach. And even if they are still accepting customers, and they're still like quote unquote open, they've still taken a hit. They all have. Everyone's taken a hit. Yeah.
I have a question.
Talk to me.
Ryan, before everyone. Okay, thanks, Ryan. I was going to ask, what would a voicemail sound like? Because obviously we're still getting voicemails.
Yeah.
What would a voicemail sound like?
So I think, great question, right? I think on my voicemails, I've always preached that even though a voicemail doesn't have another person talking, my voicemail should be as strong as my actual open calls. And I'm certainly not going to go into sales pitch mode on a voicemail, but I am still going to be very heartfelt and very empathetic on a voicemail. So like, hi, Dino, my name is Lavi. I'm calling with, company X. I'll keep this brief. Yes, I know what's going on in the country right now. And, first and foremost, I hope you're doing well and your family's, well and healthy. Here's the reason for my call. The people I'm talking to right now are all thinking one thought: what's my grand reopen plan? I'm on your website. I'm looking, I can't quite tell if you have a reopen plan or you're still accepting business. Most businesses have a pop-up on their site that says, here's our plan for reopen, or here's where we stand. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about today.
Okay, thank you.
And I would do that on every voicemail until somebody calls me back. If it's just not the time to lead with a sales pitch. In normal times, absolutely. But this is not the time to lead with a sales pitch. Everything's about how's your health, how's your family, and let's talk about what we can do to make sure people know you're still in business.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
My question is actually something that happened to me a couple days ago. I was pitching a small business owner, very engaged, very open. We had good rapport together. We were talking with each other. Once we were getting into the close, she started crying. It turned into way more of an emotional ending than anything else. She started talking about how she doesn't know how she's going to be able to pay her bills, but it's like when I know that I have the solution for those things, how do I not sound like a pushy person with somebody that's being so emotional?
Yes.
But still trying to convince them that this is the solution to their problems.
So you guys are all going to face that. I face that. I've been that person, and you might be that person one day if things get worse, right? Like we all might be that. We're like, oh man, how am I going to pay my bills? Certainly half the country that just got fired or furloughed is thinking that thought. Everybody's thinking that thought, right? So if you know of something that can help, there's a fork in the road. Do you push or do you back down? And as a leader, I've always had these issues. Like when I've had reps on my teams or on my floor and they were struggling with something and I had the solution, but my solution required them to brave the F up a little bit. I'm going with the brave the F up solution always. Now, depending on my rapport with you, I might just look you in the eye and be like, yo, brave the F up. I don't have time for this. But if I don't have a lot of rapport for you, I would be like, hey, I understand where you're coming from. You're not alone. And what I'm going to ask is that you just try and stay optimistic about the future. There is a solution. We're going to try to get there together. Everyone's in the same boat right now. So there's two schools of thought. The I'll stay at home and play video games, or I'm going to go do what I got to do. Let's go do what we got to do, Bob. Let's go do it. And as a salesperson, I think a lot of us hesitate to go down that path because it might seem overly aggressive. I think it's not aggressive enough. I think we have to go down that path. And you're gonna see, and not to get all philosophical, but when the dust settles and the country does go back to whatever normalcy is, I'm gonna have so much respect for people who fought through the hard times. You know, that's where my respect lies. And you can tell people that. I think I have room for one more question. Or not. Well, look.
Well, I got a quick question
Please.
for you, just because this actually happened to me today. I'm obviously calling a lot of services that are getting business right now, like whether they be plumbers, painters. I mean, I just look at my apartment every single day, and there's groups of painters there. There's still those types of services that are going there.
Yeah.
How would you relate this to a business that is open, that is taking business, but now they're saying that they're good? You know, they're like that. Oh, I'm good with what I've got right now.
Well, I think that goes back to very basic. Like, we could have probably done a better job building rapport on that call, right? Like, whenever someone says I'm good or like not interested, I think that always falls back to, like, that's code. I think we all know what that's code for, right? That's code for, I have, you know, you didn't say anything that connected to me on a personal level. That's code for, you know, you called me at a really awful time, but I might be free later. That's code for, like, pre-call research didn't really appeal to me, you know? So that's, I don't know if that's really quarantine talk. I think that's just like very normal pre-call research related talk. And we know what not interested means. It means go kick rocks. So that's really what it means. It means you didn't connect with me. But nobody's good, right? And how about this? Let's flip it back on them, okay? If somebody ever says to you, I'm doing really well, I'm thriving, I'm gonna take a moment to try to learn how.
Yeah.
So, wow, you're thriving? Dude, like, all jokes aside, all BS aside, can you tell me what you're doing differently? Because the other 99% of businesses I just spoke to are literally crying, worrying about what they're going to do differently. Maybe you can educate me on what you're doing different. And then they'll tell you they're still advertising. And they're doing something on Google AdWords or YouTube ads or Instagram ads or anything related to that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you, Lavi, so much, man.
Thank you guys. Yeah. I'd love for you guys, as your way of saying thank you, just to subscribe to the YouTube channel and spread the word. And that's where I make my money, right? Like, I do the leadership trainings, I do virtual stuff now. By liking the YouTube stuff, that's how you guys can help me out with my virtual training as well. I appreciate you, and let's stay in touch, please, okay?